This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. I'm with Alan Cochrane and Chloe Petts this morning. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. Good morning.
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 Morning, Chloe. Welcome to our world.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Chloe's a very old friend of mine. We met Wednesday.
And what a Wednesday it was. I'm going to say best Wednesday of my life, Frank.
Hey, me too. No, actually, I've had a lot more Wednesdays than you have.
Yeah, and it was really encouraging that, Frank, you obviously came to see my show and your feedback was, it was good, but I did miss the Real Madrid game.
Well, it was a big game to miss. I mean, I can't think of a comic who I wouldn't have been slightly bitter towards for making me miss that game.
I was bitter to myself that I missed that game.
Yeah, it was terrible planning on your part. Anyway, I went to see Chloe at Soho Theatre. She absolutely stormed it. And I did that. I went back, Al. You know when you go back?
Yeah.
And it's always a bit awkward when you go back. I think I never know quite what to say, and I felt a bit, oh God, there'll be young, cool people in there thinking, why's he come back? Get lost. Anyway, I went in, and it was well, Chloe was nice to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I was very nice, but my mum had a sort of unfortunate response to being starstruck, which is that she insulted you 3 times in exactly the same way each time, actually.
And then the cockerel crowed. It was just like St. Peter denying hey-hoos, as they call them at Man City.
So basically what happened was my mum was talking about, she was in the crowd of my show.
She was sitting in front of me, in fact.
Well, I think the way she told it 3 times was that she was sort of looking around at all the audience and going, oh, everyone's very young here. And she was like, well, Chloe's young, so she's got sort of a young audience. And I suppose we went to see, young comics back in the day, like Frank Skinner. And then apparently you walked through the door. And
yes.
I think she sort of thought that she'd summoned you from the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I just walk around the West End listening. And if anyone says my name, I walk into the room.
Whereas my mum now thinks she's a superhero, just going around going, David Baddiel,
Yeah.
Stuart Lee. No, it only worked for Frank.
Well, she told me that. I mean, before I knew it was your mum, she told me that. And she said, we were saying, even they were young then. Like,
yeah. And now you're sort of old and past. It was sort of the general gist of the story.
That was definitely. I think your mum saw, those restaurant kitchens, they've got an indoor and an outdoor. If you can imagine the inside of that was fame and glory, I think she saw Chloe on her way through the indoor and me coming out with my plates saying, anyway, guys, it's been great.
Yeah, we don't need to get this one on side. She's on the up, he's on the down.
Yes, they were very nice, actually. It is hard not to say the wrong thing. For your mum, I mean. Yeah,
specifically for Jill Petts, actually. She does find it a struggle.
So the risk, of course, was that I saw Chloe and I thought, well, she's funny. And then Emily's got a throat. I'll be straight with you. She's got a throat.
Got a bit of a throat on her.
So I said... So Sarah said, who shall we? I said, what about Chloe Petts? And I only said it just to sound cool. Right. So the Sarah would think, oh, what, Frank knows Chloe Petts? Wow. I wasn't sure, because really you don't want to judge a comedian for breakfast radio if you've only seen them perform when their mum and dad were in the audience, because they might have really cleaned it up for that one night. So you could be a shock comic for all I know.
Yeah, I've got some things planned, so brace yourselves, readers.
Bauer, the Bauer security are already on their way. I imagine like one of those. Do you remember those? I can't remember the name either. But those big black scary cars that you used to get in gangster films. A jalopy.
Oh yeah.
You know the word jalopy, Chloe?
Oh,
it's going to be an educational morning for all of us.
But you're not going to tell me what it means.
Well, jalopy is just like a big saloon car. I don't mean it's got swinging doors.
Yeah.
I mean it's. Let's get some music on, for goodness sake. I can explain off air.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
So I have to ask you one more question, Chloe. Have you done an in-depth interview, and then when it's been printed, the headline is The Secret Life of Pets?
No.
Oh, that will happen.
They haven't done The Secret Life of Chloe Pets yet. No pets win prizes, no Pet Shop Boys. There's been no sort of utilisation.
Because I've been having, frankly speaking, and being frank, headlines to interviews for 35 years.
Well, sort of following this, I think it's all I'm going to get now, really. So,
well, honestly, no one listens to this. You're right. Your secret is safe with us. It's all right. If you're not declaring this, don't worry. I haven't declared it for 11 years. Cash in hand, I get from Bauer.
Nice.
Here, put that in your pocket. I nearly did a German accent then for Bauer. Thank God I fought that urge.
Yeah, thank
I'd like to hear it, Frank.
No.
No, okay.
I have my career to think of.
Excellent.
Speaking of German accents, Hitler. I wonder what the Nuremberg rallies were like if his mum and dad was in one night. Think he
cleaned it up a bit.
Toned it down a bit. Sort of, when I say Uber Alles, obviously not literally Alles.
Yeah.
Just one or two local countries. But I'm not a megalomaniac.
His mum sat there insulting Goebbels.
Yeah, exactly.
You look a bit old.
No, I think it'd be me sitting behind his mum it'd be like the Kaiser sitting behind Hitler's mum.
Okay, yeah.
Slightly, the old guy.
The old guard, yeah.
I didn't wear me pointy hat at the Soho Theatre. It's very good though for bills. The thing you put it. I don't.
Frank, you're going to have to explain that a bit further, mate.
Well, I don't know if anyone's ever really done this, but sometimes in TV shows, people put their bills on a big spike on the desk.
Oh,
Have you ever seen that? I've never known anyone do it, but I always think be straight through the palm of the hand.
Ooh.
That's my.
Ouch.
That's my thing.
Good morning, everybody.
Sorry,
Wake
everyone.
up with Absolute.
That was yes. I forgive me for any point I try to appear with it this morning because
goodness.
Chloe's on. Because I'm not with it.
If that happens, that'll be a new trend that's developing.
Yeah.
Because that is not something you've attempted in the last 10 years.
No. What about if I say no whoa? Hey, no whoa. You familiar with that, Chloe? It's very cool.
Absolutely not.
Cool youth statement. Means no worries.
Oh,
Does it?
Yeah. Did you not know what it meant, Al?
I did not know no.
Yeah, no whoa. I heard it on Pokemon cartoon series.
Did you?
That's where I get my youth speak from.
Not only did I not know the abbreviation no, but I don't have no. I definitely have some woe.
No, everyone has some woe, don't
I have a
they?
substantial amount of woe.
The nice thing is, though, when you shorten worries to woe, it becomes woe, which is obviously sort of another word for sadness and trouble.
Did they have to explain on the Pokemon series what they meant by no?
They explain nothing on the Pokemon series.
So you had to sort of fill it in. It could be an abbreviation of something else, Frank.
Yeah.
No woman, no cry,
Yeah.
maybe.
That's
Maybe, very abbreviated record indexing system in Japan.
That is Pikachu's favourite song I've heard,
man.
yeah.
Pikachu has been name checked on this show. I think my son's gone off it a bit, which is annoying. I don't know if you ever done this with gifting, but I bought him like a box set of Pokemon books, and then he went off it, so I've just kept them.
Infuriating.
Yeah.
So you're getting into
Well, I don't
Pokemon
know.
now.
It's a very different. Are you aware of the Pokemon world? I mean, it's a strange and.
From old school, I wouldn't be up to date with the new Pokemon, so I'm sort of very much.
No, I'll go old school. It's a series I've watched, I would say, over 100 episodes of, and never really understood what the hell was going on. People have creatures in plastic balls that they get out, and the creatures fight and then you win the competition. That's it. That's every episode. But it grew on me.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We were just talking about Gustave Flaubert off air, the French novelist. Not that I'm not going to pretend I've read any Flaubert. I don't know if you guys have.
I've not read any Flaubert, but I read Flaubert's Parrot by Julian Barnes.
Oh, yeah.
So I sort of see myself as a bit of a Flaubert aficionado now.
Okay.
Armed with one fact, I think I'm sort of his biographer.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying that there's a statue of him where I think he looks terrible. And it's like he's turned up to Rodin's studio and just not made an effort. And Rodin thought, OK, well, I'm doing your warts and all, Gustave.
Whereas I think what's happened is he's turned up in his absolute Sunday best and Rodin just doesn't like him and has sort of gone, right, well, this is how you'll be immortalised through history.
But why do him then? He could have said, no, tell him no, don't want to do him.
That could be another version of it. Like, do you remember the time that you, Frank, went along to what you thought was going to be a podcast, and then they said, "Oh, we're filming it."
Oh yeah,
and you're like, "Well, hang on, I've dressed for a podcast." Maybe Flaubert.
Also, I've been paid for one. More importantly,
yeah, exactly. Maybe Flaubert turned up for a chat, and then it turned out it was a sitting for a.
Yeah, exactly. It was just
it was a cup of tea. The chat.
Flaubert's sitting there thinking. You can stop welding now, Rhoda. We're just chatting. Yeah, not even known he was sneaky. To be fair to Flaubert, and I think that's a sentence starter, which is good for breakfast radio. I believe Flaubert had a traumatic incident in his childhood. Is that one of his parents died, and when they were at the funeral, they couldn't get coffin in hall. And it got stuck, and 2 or 3 of the graveyard assistants had to jump up and down on the coffin to get it in.
God,
and I think there's a feeling that coloured Flaubert's whole world
that
view.
Might have scarred the lad.
Maybe. I mean, if he'd have been a few years later, he looks like he'd be a great guy for a coffin stomping. He's the guy you want to turn up. Also, if you're trying to, close an overstuffed suitcase, send for Flaubert.
Just giving him sort of trauma flashbacks every time he tries to go on holiday.
He did all right, Gustave. I don't know how we got onto that. I'll tell you what, I got up this morning, and one of my duties first thing on a Saturday morning is to feed the dog. And I just wonder if there's anything, you do gigs and that, and it goes well. The people, when you walk on, you get like applause, and people are. I mean, Chloe walked on the other night. It was absolute. I mean, it was. I said to you, like absolute love in the room when you walked out.
That's nice.
But I mean, just from a mum and dad. But
sort of them cajoling everyone. Come on, everybody start clapping.
But when you feed, I can imagine your mum doing that. But. When you feed a dog in the morning, oh man, that is if I could get that response from a crowd. When I just go to the fridge, the front feet start. Oh man!
Imagine if you made someone laugh so hard they started involuntarily wetting themselves.
I've been told by people that's happened.
Oh really?
Yeah. I do a lot of old people's homes.
Dribbling like a dog.
They're my crowd now. And obviously when I'm looking for action... No, come on. No, it was... imagine being a waiter and turning up to the table and the customers doing that, running round and round the table, really. Sit, just can't control themselves. Has there ever been food that good as a dog's response to food? Here we are with the meal. Whoa! Come on! Oh, man. That's a little target I've set the chefs at home. Come up with that one.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Al often extends my my world knowledge by telling me... tell us, Al, who we were just discussing.
Well, we were discussing your dog's eating habits off air, and I said that your dog... You told me that your dog eats raw meat, and I said perhaps it's influenced by the YouTuber...
In cat form, mainly in cat form. We're trying to stop it. No.
There's a YouTuber and Instagrammer called the Liver King, who's like a muscly American dude who eats a lot of liver.
But not exclusively liver.
I think majority liver.
Oh, wow.
I don't really know. I haven't actually gone on a deep dive into the Liver King. I've just seen like pictures and videos.
I'm glad he exists.
I just Google him and search him, and he is ripped. So that's really working for him.
So it works.
And
I mean, a lot of these things, I think, are a sort of a genetic blessing that they then pretend is their actual diet. I think.
But he's found big bits of liver. Like on the Google image search, he's wearing a bit of liver like it's a scarf.
Do you not do that?
Lady Gaga type character.
I've got a liver scarf on now in my Manchester studio. Have you guys not?
No, I'm not.
I wouldn't be wearing a liver scarf in Manchester, Alan.
Hey,
thank you.
I've got lamb chop epaulets on this jacket. That's any good to you.
Good.
Oh man! If only the Liver King's name was Archie. Then he could be Liberace. Oh man, I'd change it.
The jokes are coming thick and fast.
If you're listening, Liver King, change your name by deed poll. I mean, you get more publicity because everyone said there's this guy called Liberace. That would be it.
I think he listens on the podcast during the week, so he won't change that soon.
No, okay. Fair. He doesn't like the adverts. It's a lot of non-meat based stuff. He can't be non-awful. Still, he's got a big heart and an enormous liver.
Really nice. Really nice.
By the way, if you're listening, don't just eat liver.
No,
that's not.
It seems bizarre that we have to give that as a disclaimer.
Well, you got to be careful.
We do live in a world where people would think it was an endorsement for liver and liver alone.
Yeah, also the word liver suggests that you're going to last longer if you eat it.
Yeah.
Everything about liver is positive towards life expectancy, isn't it? There's no stuff that's... You see, dire is used as an insult, obviously. That's absolutely dire. Do you want some liver? That sounds much better. That's how people's mind works. There was a banana girl as well who just ate bananas. And again looked fantastic.
Oh, really?
Where did you discover her? Was she just sort of someone on your street, or was she?
No, she's on the internet.
On the social medias.
I wish she'd been someone on my street. That would have been great. Just seeing her in the morning on her way back from the greengrocers. Great big sack. No, I like a banana, but...
Me too.
But, come on, banana girl. Spread it about a bit.
Come on.
If her and Archie got together, they could put together quite a nicely balanced meal.
Yeah.
But imagine them going out for dinner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where would they go for a start off?
Liver banana restaurant.
They could go to Rainforest Cafe. Well, she'd be all right. And if he's all right with gorilla liver. Oh, look! I saw. Oh no, the sign's going up. The producer holds up. It's actually holding up a sign that says 30 seconds.
It's such a shame because I think that was going to be the best anecdote
of my life
of all time.
Yeah. And of course, at my age, it's gone now.
Yeah, we'll never hear it again.
You can't recoup when you stop like that on the. It's like if you're starting the ski jump. And when they get to the top and then they're called back sometimes because there's like a cow on the track or something. I seem to remember that in the Winter Olympics, or was it a dream? I dreamt about the Great Exhibition of 1851 last night.
Did you?
Yeah. I know it's very boring to retell your dreams, but there were people shouting in the night outside my house, and I got them mixed up with. The Great Exhibition of 1851, and imagine there were people responding to the exhibits.
It's funny, Frank, that you're talking about your dream because I feel like I'm currently in a fever dream.
Yeah, sorry.
From skiing to Great Exhibition.
I'll calm. Unfortunately, it'll be about 12:30.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Have we had any outside world communication, or have we... Has it just ceased?
We've had a smatter just in. We were just discussing Liver King and Banana Girl moments ago, and 410 has texted, Frank, I'm not sure it would be terribly safe to Google banana girl. That's a good point. And also on a sombre note, somewhat, Frank, our cat would only eat fresh liver, like Hannibal Lecter, but she eventually died of vitamin A or maybe D excess. So, you know, a word to the wise there from Linda.
A word to me, or a word to Archie.
Exactly.
He's living on borrowed time. Also strangely started burying his own excrement recently.
The problem is with a cat or a dog, if they want to only eat one thing, you can't sort of balance it out with a conversation like you can with another human.
Well, you cannot feed them.
Yeah, I feel like the pet owner is very much in control.
Yeah, I'm in charge in our house.
Yeah.
The dog.
If you put down something as a side, they're just going to leave it, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're not going to starve themselves to death, are they?
I think some of them can get very trenchant about their dietary requirements.
I'm loving trenchant, Al.
Thank you.
I can go home now and happy. Well, the local butcher, I must have told you this, Al, I've told you before, but not you, Chloe, because we're strangers.
Sorry, Frank. I think we're absolutely best friends.
Are we? Okay, fair enough. We're sort of friends in the internet world, aren't we?
Yeah,
I've friended you.
Yeah.
Okay, so a local butcher said, "Will you feed your dog, mate? Because it stands outside our shop and barks all day." And I said, well, you know, I can't control and let it out the house. This is in the days we just used to let them out.
Yeah.
So anyway, years later, somebody said to me their dog was vegetarian, and that dogs actually, it's a myth about the meat, they actually prefer to live the vegetarian lifestyle. And I explained that on no occasion did a local greengrocer say to me, your dog's been barking outside my shop for lettuce.
And also, dogs sort of can't make an ethical choice. Like, it's not like one's turning up to Extinction Rebellion going, actually, I'm sort of very worried about the climate.
No,
so I've chosen an exclusively vegan diet.
But there must be vegetarians who just like it, just don't like meat. It's not always a moral choice, is it? Isn't there just some not keen on meat?
But that's with a dog. It might be that it doesn't like meat, or it might be a moral choice. You know,
it could be. I mean, our dog is amoral. I'm not saying it's immoral. It's amoral.
Immoral.
Yeah. So listen, bit of history. My son yesterday was in his school play, so me and Kath went along to see it, and he played the Victorian inventor George Merriweather.
Would you say he was typecast?
No. He had to have a beard. People said to him, "You look good. You look really good with a beard." Well, I've never been able to grow a decent beard, and so I thought, don't build his hopes up now. Don't give. He's ginger as well. I find gingers often can't really manage a really dense.
Yeah.
You get the odd exception.
Sort of a little wispy.
You don't want. Mine's got real gaps in it. Do you know what I mean? It looks like flying over sort of marshland. There's you can see tributaries of skin going through the undergrowth, and that's no good. But George Merriweather, we've spoken on this show before about nominative determinism, where someone's name leads them into their career. Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
For example. If you'd become a vet, Chloe, that obviously Chloe Petts, the vet, would have been perfect.
Yeah. Really nice.
Also, what we haven't done yet is a tradition on the show. Do you know Chloe Petts? No, but thanks for the tip. George Merriweather, I'm going to tell you his full story, but he was a meteorological guy. So, I mean, brilliantly named. I'll explain a little more after this.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. I'm joined... This is what it says. I've been given a piece of paper. I'm joined by Alan Cochrane and Chloe Petts. She's given me this bit of paper in case I forget Chloe's name, because I'm old. Damned insult. You can text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. I left you on a Victorian inventor cliffhanger.
I'm on the edge of my seat, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I have a feeling I've mentioned this before, but anyway, you can't get too much of a good thing. George Merriweather invented a weather predicting machine called the Tempest Prognosticator. And what this is
rude,
and this is real. What it is, it's several jars with leeches in them, and leeches respond to damp in the air, and if they're in some sort of pit, even a glass one, they will panic that they're going to drown, so they climb up, and he rigged up string around the top of the jar so that when the leeches reached the string, a bell rang. So you knew a storm was coming because the leeches had risen, as it were, and that was it. And George imagined that'd be one of these in every home. The leech-based weather predictor.
The prognosticator.
That would have been nice,
the Tempest Prognosticator. But it didn't work out. But I'll tell you one thing about George, which I will always love him for. Not just that he was played by my child, but he put them in glass containers because he said it was important that they could see each other, the leeches. He said, lest it should feel like solitary confinement. Now, there's a concern for our fellow creatures,
and that's where the Merry in Merriweather comes from.
Exactly, and the weather obviously speaks for itself. But what a guy.
Yeah. And how did your son get on playing him?
Ah, man, he stormed it.
Yeah.
I mean, he found all the business. He did a lot of business.
But do you know what? It must have been high pressure for him being the son of a performer, and he's really risen to the occasion. That's,
yeah.
I've never met him, but I'm proud of him.
Oh, thanks, Chloe. I'll pass that on. He was a great George Merriweather, The Guardian. No, it wasn't reviewed. Not by me. So,
not yet. Maybe the reviews go to press later. Perhaps it'll be in the Sundays.
Let's not talk about reviews.
No, really?
No, I haven't had any, but I can still remember the ones I had 35 years ago. So there you go. Are you adored in reviews, Chloe? Generally.
I haven't had many, but I had a good one from The Guardian, and I think that's mainly just because I sort of have a general lefty viewpoint. So you can just sort of say something like, fascism is wrong, and get 4 stars off The Guardian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a little tip for...
I'll try that.
A little tip for your comedy.
I'll try that, but I don't know if it'd be convincing.
Yeah.
Wrong's such a big word.
Frank Skinner, fascism is nuanced.
Exactly. I'm not as keen on it as I was, Frank Skinner. No, it's
I didn't expect
bad.
This
okay, can I just
confession.
Can I just say the official line? It's bad.
Yeah. Sounds like you're just saying it though now.
No, I do. Obviously, do I have to honestly explain that I think fascism is bad?
Of course you don't.
Can we talk about the story of the scary stuff? Oh, we can't because now the project. I was on the top of the ski run again.
Yeah.
And more cattle on the tracks below.
I don't know if my nerves are going to be able to take it. Another cliffhanger.
I imagine as well, if you were on the top of a ski slope and there was cattle on the tracks, there'd be those loud Swiss bells that they put on cattle so they can find them at night. You know, have you been to Switzerland?
Never been to Switzerland.
You, Al?
I've been to Switzerland, but not anywhere where there's cattle on ski slopes. Is that what you just said?
No, I'm just talking about generally. If I was up in the mountains with Richard Ayoade and we had to speak up because the sound of the cattle bells was so powerful. Yeah, the big, massive. They bring them back as souvenirs, not the cattle. Well, I brought back a couple of chops. The cattle chops. Ever had beef chops?
I'm a vegetarian, Frank.
Oh, sorry, everyone.
You've offended my culture.
Earlier Guardian conversation.
But if there's anyone listening who can explain why I can't go out and buy beef chops, I'd like to know. Chloe will get over it.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, you were asking why can't you get chops from a cow.
Well, you get pork chops and lamb chops. There seems to be an obvious omission there.
Well, there isn't that obvious an omission. It's a labelling issue that you've got confused with here. 790, good morning, Frank and the team. Sirloin of beef on the bone and rib of beef on the bone are your beef chops. Happy eating, Rich the Butcher. So that's basically beef on the bone is a chop. So if you get a steak, I'm guessing, with the bone, like a tomahawk steak type thing. But
beef on the bone doesn't come with a handle like a lamb chop. I like food with a handle.
Right.
Chicken leg, toffee apple. They're the big three. I think we'd agree. Somebody's obviously been messing around with an apple, dropped it a couple of times, and thought the semi-sphere has got no future. Get me a stick. And thus the toffee apple was... The toffee, that was 3 or 4 years later. But
I feel like that's even further incentive not to drop it on the floor, because if you add a sticky layer, then it's going to sort of acquire whatever it hits. So
so start with the stick. Start with the stick, and then it drops off a few times, and you think, I'm not really concentrating and keeping it on the stick. I'll make it sticky, and then I don't want. And sticky, obviously, where they got the idea. Yeah, they got the stick, and then they thought of stickiness.
Let's take this word to the logical conclusion.
Yeah, it's. I think that's what happened.
We've got some further update on the meat names. We should move on. Hey up, you three. Beef chops are usually given the moniker beef cutlets. If you desire a different kind of beef chops, you can ask to be served beef cheeks, which are sans bone, as they are literally the cow's chops. That's from Andy Wood, Bronte Country, West Yorkshire. I like the addition of Bronte Country.
I got a letter from Bronte Country this week, as they call it.
Did you?
Greetings from the Bronte Moors, it begins. Very Moorish, the landscape up there. And... they've sent me a book about the Lewis Chessman. Now, you might not... Well, you won't know this, Chloe, but I'm very keen on the Lewis Chessman, the chess set, which is in the British Museum and the Scottish National Gallery. And so they've sent me a book about that, which is very nice. Furthermore, they've also enclosed... I have also enclosed a short illustrated essay that I wrote, inspired by a small map in Stornoway Museum, which had South at the top of the map and Lewis in the centre. I hope you find some interest in it. I don't get sent enough essays by readers,
let alone visual ones.
Yeah, but I will actually. Genuinely, I'll read that. South at the top. What a palaver.
This show is constantly surprising. It goes from the absolute lowest of the low to the highest of the high.
What are you calling the lowest of the low? Meat, you mean, don't you?
It's just funny to me that the most correspondence we've got all show is about chops.
Yeah. Well, they've been waiting. They've thought, let's get the flow bear out the way and get down to meat.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
I don't feel, Al, that I've really got my head around the beef chop.
Oh, really? Well,
I still can't picture lamb chop, quite similar but bigger than, but smaller rather than a pork chop, and then a beef thing next to it that looks like it's the same template. The chop template has been applied to cattle.
This may be obvious for me to say, but you do realise they come from different animals, though, don't you? So,
I know,
but
it's
pig
the
is
chop.
a different shape to a cow.
That is true, but I mean the sandwich comes from different places, but they still are essentially the same shape. I don't see why the chop. If you go ferreting around anyone's skeleton, you'd come up with chop potential. Surely,
you'd find a chop somewhere. But Frank, I just think. Just take a moment to visualise just a large chop with a long bone with a bit of beef hanging off it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I visualise it most days. I just can't find it in the shops.
I think I just conjured something quite beautiful with my words there. That was almost poetic.
It was lovely.
Thank you.
It was lovely.
Well, 581 has tried to help. The T-bone steak is an equivalent loin pork chop the tail would run down to what the brisket becomes. That's from Steve Mack, who I guess is
I'm having
as well.
I'm having terrible flashbacks on this because I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I had to identify where you would find it's something like some part of a cow that sounded something like the Rolf. Rolf. Where's the Rolf of a cow? And I thought, I don't know. And Jeremy Clarkson, who farms, was looking at me in some dismay. The Roth. You ever heard of the Roth? No, I don't know that. The dewlap. Well, exactly. I love a mint dewlap on a hot night. Yeah, I'd love it. What if you ordered a mint dewlap and they bought you a mint dewlap? Oh man, what confusion!
That
would be awful.
Tremendous. I don't think a dewlap is awful. I've got to pull you up on that.
All right.
If the liver man will be on the line in a minute. No, look,
that's
or
about five
awful.
butchers that have been texting the show all day. I saw catering to so many butchers on this show.
No, that's interesting. I went to see Ricky Martin live in Barcelona.
Frank, you're a man of mysteries.
Anyway, he at the end of the show. Look, I was living La Vida Loca.
And still are.
Yeah, and he. At the end, I remember he reached towards his chest and he twisted as if he was tearing at sinew. And then he held out his hand and blew as if he was blowing his actual heart into the audience. He ripped it out of his chest. You couldn't propel offal just with a burst of human breath. I don't think that's realistic. But it was
a great gimmick for the end of his show. If he did
you'd have to have a transplant every morning.
Ricky Martin's morning transplant.
That'd be a great title for a podcast.
Spin-off, Frank. Spin-off.
Frank Skinner. Absolute Radio.
I'd like to bring to your attention a news story this week. There was something of a brouhaha, a mid-air brouhaha, when passengers on a Virgin Atlantic flight from Heathrow to New York got upset when their plane was forced to turn back because it became clear that the co-pilot hadn't finished his flying exams.
Yes.
So it says in the article that they did a U-turn, which I think was one of the manoeuvres that he had been trained in.
I know, he did a three-pointer. What about if he'd reverse round a corner of a country?
Yeah, Ireland or something.
I mean, they didn't announce what the reason was, though. If you were on a plane and somebody said that I would be anxious until we landed.
I get a bit annoyed if I'm on a train and they turn it off and back on again to try and get the seat booking reservations to work.
Is that why they turn it on and off again?
I've been on a few trains where they've turned it back off and back on again to try and rejig something.
Yeah,
I think in this day and age.
Yeah, it's such a we've moved on so far technologically, but even probably the nuclear codes or something. It's I'll just try turning it off and on again.
Yeah, but it does seem to work on the trains.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll ever move past technologically turning it off and on again. I think that will be with us until the end of time.
But they said that they made an announcement when they began telling them. They said some of you who were watching our flight tracker will have noticed we've just done an 180-degree turn. You know that flight tracker thing where you see the little plane move? Imagine suddenly seeing it do that.
I like to imagine that they were going, I'm really sorry, guys. You're never going to guess what's happened. In a sort of quite conspiratorial, he hasn't got his exams.
They should have sent him out, shouldn't they, to explain?
Oh, they'd have ripped him to shreds, surely.
I think I would have been like, that's pretty cool. Can I have a go?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of carte blanche for,
apparently,
go on, everyone jump on.
He would have been allowed to fly if the other pilot had been a registered trainer of pilots.
So I do think it is one of those articles that sort of it's got a better headline than its content.
Well, I don't know. The fact is, the other guy wasn't a trainer. So it's a bit like, you know, when your dad gives you a driving lesson instead of like a proper instructor. It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
But it was on a passenger plane crossing the Atlantic. They should have just gone like other people do, on a bit of waste ground, just the two of them. And had a little spin around. Not get everyone on board and fly to America.
It'll be fine.
It's amazing they managed to set off and get going when he'd already put the L plates outside.
Oh man! Really though, I would have been very. There was one part of the story I did not understand, and I will tell you about it after this.
Frank Skinner. Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
I'll tell you the plain thing first. It said one of the passengers said that they knew that something was going wrong because 3 people in high-vis jackets went into the cockpit. There's so many questions about that. I thought the cockpit was closed for flights.
Yeah.
And also, where did they come from?
Do they just keep 3 people in high vis on all planes?
Yes,
just
in
wheel
a
them
back
out
room, playing whist in a back room. Yeah, I mean, I would be really terrified if 3 people out of nowhere. I'd assume we'd landed and I'd slept through it. 3 people in high vis went into the. Who?
Frank, we've got some correspondence from a regular reader, Ruth Jordan.
Ah, yes.
She says, talking about the pilot and his non-official trainer being like having a driving lesson from your dad, just brought back Sunday afternoons in a quiet road in Birmingham in my mum's VW Polo with my dad helpfully repeating, now just raise the clutch the thickness of a penny.
Oh, wow.
Just the thickness of a penny.
I'm picturing it now. There used to be
a level of dexterity, though, to get it that.
I knew Al would see. Al is our motoring correspondent. He's in like a hawk.
Yeah, he's like, the penny is actually a unit of measurement used in motoring quite regularly, actually.
There used to be the pint of beer thing, and what you would do, you'd be in the pub and everyone would pile out and somebody would put a pint of beer on the bonnet and you had to change gear without spilling. I think you had to go.
Well, that's good fun.
Yeah.
And was that the test of whether you were too drunk to drive or not?
No, I don't think that even cropped up. We're talking about the 70s.
Not drunk enough to drive in the 70s.
Can I say it? We don't approve of drinking and driving, but there was a time when it was.
There was a time when we did.
No, we didn't. I never approved of it. I just didn't realise it was happening. One thing about this I thought was what they said, Virgin Airlines. By the way, I suppose you could argue if you call Virgin Airlines, it sort of gives the idea in your head that there might be who hadn't been up there before, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm a flight virgin.
Yeah. You're warning people, really. It's hiding in plain sight. Anyway, they said, and I quote, they described this thing as a rostering error.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a great term to use when you was ending a relationship. Sorry, I now realise you were a rostering error.
Yeah.
Just lay it that one.
Something of a personnel problem.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be. It's all got to be an HR crisis. And oh dear, awful. Do you remember Conscious Uncoupling?
Oh yes.
Do I remember
Guinea Pig?
Little Guinea Pig and Chrissy.
A friend of mine told me that Chris Martin called her Guinea Pig. They knew them a bit, and I always think of her as Guinea Pig now. And I love Guinea Pig. I mean, she in the Iron Man movies, she was sensational.
Yeah.
I forgive her all the gloop. I like all that nonsense.
I think the gloop is some of the most fruitful comedy we've seen in recent years, so I'm very thankful to Guinea Pig.
And she also, Conscious Uncoupling, I like people that fool around with language, generally.
The next one, rostering error.
Well, exactly.
Guinea Pig's rostering error.
When she talked about Chris Martin not liking doing red carpets, she said, it doesn't behoove us to become a public couple. and behoove is just a word you hardly ever hear. And I just like that Gwynnie Pig just dropped it into casual chat. She's a great woman. That's me. I'm Paltrow. I'm pro Paltrow. Not easy to say, but it's out.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner. I'm joined by Alan Cochrane and Chloe Petts. Every time I read your name, Alan, I'm surprised there's an E on the end of Cochrane. I've known you for a while.
A long time now, yeah.
Text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. That would be nice if you did that. We were talking about the trainee pilot who hadn't quite finished. I mean, Virgin have assured us he was totally safe, but he hadn't done that flight where you get your big tick and you can fly without having somebody to watch over you.
Apparently the main giveaway that he was a trainee was that he was so sober.
Oh, God. Do you remember, I thought of Guy Gomer, who I don't think of that often. Do you know Guy Gomer? Chloe, you're looking confused.
No, I don't. I feel like I just don't get any of the references on this
sorry.
show.
This is not that long ago. This was a guy who turned up at News 24 to be interviewed about an IT job, and ended up on camera being asked about the Beatles being sued by Apple Corporation. They just got literally the wrong guy.
The wrong guy.
Yeah, and the other guy the expert was called Guy. But so they went into reception and said, "Are you Guy?" And he said, "Yeah, Guy Gomer." And he said he thought, "Oh, this is quite an interview. There's cameras."
Did he try and style it out?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
That's brilliant.
He started off saying, I'm really surprised to be asked about this. And they just thought it was him being a bit humble. And then they went into the deep thing of whether the Beatles... Because Beatles had a company called Apple, obviously.
Yeah.
And then Apple Corps came out. And I think Apple Corps said the Beatles were spoiling their Apple by having their Apple, even though they were there first. In fact, come to think of it, Gwyneth and Chris could have got involved in this.
It all comes full circle.
They've got an apple, haven't they?
They have got a little apple.
And an apple. They got Apple is their oldest, and then Moses was their next child.
Also very biblical. They've gone
working their way.
2 stories of Genesis.
Yeah, they're working their way through the Old Testament. If they'd have stayed together, they'd have been announcing a child called Abinadab. This week. Sadly, they're consciously uncoupled.
Correspondence from one of our readers about the aircraft, if I may.
Please.
So Al Wareham or AI Wareham, I don't know, says, I was once sat on an aircraft which they were having trouble starting. After about 20 minutes, a guy appeared on the top of a stepladder at the pilot's window with a laptop. With a flimsy network cable passed into the cockpit. They had to do a software update.
Oh, man.
It's such a shame when sort of the banalities of the office go into the realms of something that could kill you.
Yeah, well, that's... You see, I would have really wanted to get off the plane, but I'd been too English to ask anyone if I could.
Oh, I'm so polite that I've flown to my death.
Exactly.
But at least it wasn't awkward.
But that's imagine that I just couldn't actually say. There was a really odd one earlier this year. There was a plane turned back because 2 people were caught sneaking into business class, and I thought, do you honestly turn a plane round for that? Don't you just reprimand them?
It smacks of mum going, Well, if you're going to misbehave,
okay,
then you're going to ruin it for everyone, aren't you?
Do you think the pilot leaned behind him and started slapping them in their seat?
Stop it!
I'm warning you two. We'll turn round.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So, Chloe, you're tall.
Go on.
I understand. I'm leading you into something here.
Yeah. I don't know how you're going to get to it, the way you've started.
Okay. So when you go to a gig How does that affect things? This is Des O'Connor.
My gosh.
When you did the Des O'Connor show, you'd go on and say what material you wanted to do, and then you had to write the questions for him to take you to that material.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Don't pretend like that's not what's happened today, Frank.
No, okay, yes. So you'd meet with two guys, you'd tell them what you wanted to do, work out the questions, then they would then do the interview with them being Des and I'd be me doing my jokes.
Yeah.
They would then send that cassette over when the driver picked Des up. They would drive in with that playing, so he heard the interview. And then when you were actually interviewed, there's an enormous idiot board behind with the questions and my answers on.
Brilliant.
Belt and braces, Des O'Connor, but he was very good at it. He still really laughed heartily at the things he'd heard and read.
He sounds like an absolute pro.
He was a massive pro. Respectamundo. So come on, spit it out, Chloe.
Okay, so I went to a gig this week.
How tall are you, just because it's radio?
6 foot.
Okay.
So I'm tall, but I'm tall for a woman. I'm not like extremely tall.
You're tall for a man, really. I'm 5'10" and a half. I dream of 6 foot.
I'm tall, but it's not like ludicrous. Like I was there.
No, it's not bad tall.
I was at the gig with a 6'3", and I think he was struggling. So basically, we went to see.
How tall are you, Al? I'm just giving everyone's given their heights. You must be over
doing
6.
Our stats, I'm about 6'2", 6'3".
There you go. But still good tall.
And waist size out.
34, I think.
Not bad.
But so we went to see a band called Wet Leg.
Oh, yes.
Great. Me and a couple of friends.
Very hot at the moment.
Really?
I don't mean
Are they?
that wasn't a urination joke. I mean, Wet Leg are very hot.
Leg, yeah.
No, they are. They're
We've all
everywhere.
had nights like that.
But me and my sort of 6'3" friend had a bit of that. So we got our space in the crowd, and then we went to get beers, and we left shorter people in the middle, and then we sort of had to wade our way back through to our friends, and then we're stood in front of some short people, and I sort of felt a bit conflicted because I was like, I think I'm sort of adversely
ruining their night.
So then what I did is I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get the rest of the crowd around me on side by letting these short people in front of me to show that I'm sort of a bit philanthropic.
Like a school photo.
Like a school photo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then what you have to remember is there were short people behind them. So I could have just kept going.
Until you hit the wall.
Till I hit the wall.
As they say in the marathon world.
But
that's what they base it on.
Yeah, exactly. Polite tall people. That's where that phrase came from. Hitting the wall.
But do you think there's a world in which at gigs you should sort of go in height order and then we sort of stagger it?
That I believe is how rake seating was invented. They saw people standing in order of height and thought we could simulate this.
Let's monetize that.
Yeah, we could ramp this. And I think that'd be a great idea, but I don't find that level of maybe the Wet Leg crowd are a bit more caring than the bands I go to see.
Wokies.
But I think if you said to someone, excuse me, I think you're a bit taller than me, can you go behind me? That would you could end up in what I believe they used to call fisticuffs.
Yeah, a bit of fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And it would be difficult if you sort of tried to do a mosh pit in height order as well, sort of keep a bit of order to the mosh pit.
Yeah, I interviewed Richard Osman once, and I said to him, if you were, like at Lord's, they have a meeting point where if you're meeting someone, I think you could say, well, I'll meet you, Richard Osman's going, I'll meet you at Richard Osman, because you can see him from everywhere in the room.
Yeah.
And so it's like the clock, in Grand Central Terminal. You just has to stick close to him and they'll find you.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Now, we get occasionally people send pictures of their children into the show in comical situations. There's a guy, I think, was it Adam Edwards? Adam Edwards. Who really has, he's outdone them all with a picture of his daughter. I don't know how old she is, I'm going to guess about 8. And she's holding up a giant I can only call it a beef chop. I think for all the talk from butchers, from gourmets who have texted in this morning.
We have gourmets.
We had some good. We had a great white hunter texting. But this so often one gets true truth from the lips of babes, as they say. I mean, babes, as in children. We need to update that old saying. And she's just holding up a massive beef chop, and it's a great picture.
She looks really happy with her
does.
beef chop. The beef chop is so big that you can't get a sense of perspective. Like, she could be 17, and we were sort of wouldn't know. But the beef chop is as big as her head.
She could be an action figure, and that could be a lamb chop.
Yeah.
But the great thing is she's wearing what I think is a leopard print top, so it really gives the feeling of the wildcat who's
she's gone
devouring.
out hunting.
Yeah,
she's gone out hunting.
It's got a bit of a Flintstones vibe.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. I tell you what, though, it could be Pebbles. Remember, she was the Flintstone daughter.
Yes, I do.
Bone in the hair.
Bone in the hair. Yeah, so she's going to eat her chop, and then she's going to pop her bone in her hair.
Yeah.
That's what.
So,
That's a nice noise.
A thing that I struggle with just lately is if anyone's wearing an animal print thing, I'm getting less and less good at identifying the wildcat. So I looked at that and I thought I had leopard, cheetah, puma. They were all dancing around my head, and it's like I spin it like the Wheel of Fortune, and whichever wildcat it lands on, I say, oh yeah, I like that leopard print. But I'm going to have to swat up. I'm going to have to revise my wildcats.
What an interesting aspect of ageing, that you lose your faculties to identify a wildcat.
Yeah, tiger I'm all right with. I don't think you ever lose tiger. But the others, I'm really not.
Maybe that should be the new test, like, for, old people you're a bit worried about their memory. Don't ask them Prime Minister of the day, say, what wildcat's that?
Yeah, show some old Julie Goodyear videos and say, what would you say? What animal would you say that was based on?
I laughed. I didn't get the reference, Frank, but I think it was lovely.
There was a woman in Coronation Street who famously wore leopard print.
Ah, okay, right. Yeah,
that was the character. She was...
now I know that. Frank, that is very funny.
Yeah. That was at an age where I never ever missed Coronation Street. It was so brilliant, I must say. But I'll tell you something. Speaking of unexpected ageing things, this is a thing this is a tragic thing. I've gone off fish and chips.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've had fish and chips a couple of times just lately, and I thought, no. Where is the zing of yesteryear?
Do you pull off the batter and just eat the white fish? I feel like
I've never done that. No. I have pulled off the batter and just ate the batter. I always see the fish as something that's just there to hold the batter
a vessel
together.
For the batter.
Exactly, a craft. Yeah. That's really, because I would have said in Q&As, and I have done, that fish and chips is my favourite meal, and I've just gone off it. Can you imagine?
Could it be overexposure though, or?
Well, I don't have it that often. I just had a couple just lately, and it's really makes me feel sad. I mean, it's quite a loss.
What a sorry day.
I could try dace, I suppose. I think you can get dace, can't you? It's a fish, guys. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know that one.
Oh, don't tell me that's an old-fashioned thing.
I've
it's a creature.
My faculty to recognise certain fish.
Yeah, if it was like, it's not like a prehistoric one though. It's still around,
Everyone's going to be like, poor Frank Skinner. He's off his fish and chips, and he doesn't know his puma from his leopard.
Yeah. His days are numbered.
Oh.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
By the way, some of you will know that I was... there's an ongoing thing with a comic book called Pugs in Space. I was sent the second edition last week after a 12-month delay. Mm-hmm. But this week I've been sent a cavalcade of Merch, T-shirts, a car sticker. I mean, I haven't actually put a sticker on a car I got this car about, 7 or 8 months ago. It is completely stickerless. So maybe this
it's
is...
a Rolls-Royce Phantom as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's,
it'd be an unusual car sticker to have.
yeah, exactly. My other car's a Porsche. Is that better or worse? My other car, sadly, is a Porsche.
That'd be very good if you had a Porsche saying, my other car's a Vauxhall Corsa.
Yeah, I've seen one on a Porsche. My other car's a Porsche, like someone's got more than one. But anyway, I went to the cinema on Thursday. It was the opening night of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm a big Strange fan. From the old days when he was just a comic book. My son, actually, I think I might have mentioned, was reading his entry in the Marvel Encyclopedia. And it says, do you know that he said when he goes into temples, his hair goes grey? Does he? I'm sure I've seen him in temples. And he'd read greying at the temples and he didn't know what temples were, as part of their head. I'm wondering if the word temple for side of the head has died out a bit. Don't hear it much.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I hadn't noticed, but maybe that's the answer in and of itself. I haven't heard the word temples for a while. That's confirming your theory.
Yeah, the old playful bullying thing of holding someone in an arm lock and rubbing your knuckle into their temple.
Well,
that's gone.
But we call that a noogie. What would you have called it, a noogie?
No, we didn't have a name for it.
Whereas you went quite a verbose description of what you were doing. We just go, I'm giving him a noogie.
Yeah, I've never heard that. Noogie would be some variation of knuckle or something.
Knuckles on head or something like.
Well, this is going to take some parsing. PAR.
Texting.
What do you call that form of bullying when you squeeze your knuckle into someone's head clamped temple?
What would you call the temples if you didn't call them the temples?
I'd call them the side panels.
Which would you?
That's a good one.
Greying at the side panels.
I feel on my
Frank is
head.
a robot. We should have explained.
Yeah, I feel they're the weakest part of my head. Probably the temple.
Are they?
Yeah. It might have been weakened by years of noggying. Was it noggying? Noggying, sorry.
But that's good.
I trained mine quite hard.
You shouldn't let on, Frank, that people know it's your Achilles heel.
Oh, that's true.
Get them in the temples.
That's true.
Side panels, I apologise.
Yeah, there is there's a archer assassin that waits for me outside the radio station sometimes, and most of his arrows have gone harmlessly into my torso. But now
he knows where to go.
Now I've spilt the anatomical beans. It's gonna be hell out there.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
I'll tell you what, speaking of people I love, I'm a big Elvis Presley fan, Chloe. You look alarmed. And
Sorry, who's that?
I saw a trailer for the new Baz Luhrmann Elvis Presley film. It might be the worst trailer for a film I've ever
My
seen.
gosh.
And I'm a massive Elvis fan, and I thought I'm definitely going to see that. And I still will see it. But it looked like a bad night on Stars in the Rise.
Can I just ask, Frank, when you say you're a massive Elvis fan, you mean that you're a huge fan of Elvis? You don't mean you only liked his massive years?
No, although I liked his massive years as well, more than most. I like an on-stage karate demonstration mid-gig.
Me too.
But that was your era, Al.
They were my favourite Elvis years.
But really, it can't be as bad as the trailer.
But I do think that we have a tendency at the moment because of the way films need to sell themselves, trailers give so much away and they're so high production and so good that maybe Baz Luhrmann's gone the other direction and gone, I'm going to make the trailer rubbish and the film absolutely banging. Although
I would say I think Baz Luhrmann has given too much away.
Oh really?
Yeah, no one will go.
But we do know the story of Elvis.
Yes,
so.
that is true. They had a trailer for the new Downton Abbey film, and it had clips from the film, but it was the actors on a red carpet talking about what a brilliant film it was.
They've started doing that now, and I thought,
that's
weird.
Lost a bit of faith in the material.
Who's playing Elvis, Frank?
Well, Elvis is someone I've never heard of before.
Right.
Matthew Kelly, his name is. No, it isn't. And also it looks like someone has been made up to look like Elf. I might say, if I see it and it's good, believe me, I will be on this show, Jane. But on the strength of the trailer, it's the worst film that's ever been made. Wow. Anyway, that's that. Now, one thing I do not want this show to end without mentioning is, as I say, I saw Chloe Petts on Wednesday night for the first time. Here she is on the radio show. We spoke for about 4 minutes after the show, so it was
3 of them was my mum insulting you.
Exactly. And then I had a photo with your mum. There was a lovely bit where I was going to say how good you were with a swear word in it, and I put my hands over your mum's ears, and she thought I was embracing her and warm to it. It was a great moment. If you hadn't been there, that's all I'm saying. And your dad, obviously.
Well, Dad probably would have given you the go.
Well,
He's a big fan of you from the 90s.
It would have been like a Mussolini-style kiss, you know. It would have been. It wouldn't have been like a passion. I'm on about affection. Any road up. So Chloe was great, and she's on tour. So over to you, Chloe. You get this is plug time.
I'd love for you to come and see me on tour. My show is called Transients. I'll explain all about that. Finish at the Soho Theatre this evening. It is sold out. Apologies for that. But then 14th of May, if you're in Bath, that's my first official tour. That is
actually the next time I'm in a Bath. 14th of May. It's on my calendar.
Works on a very scheduled hygiene system, does Frank?
When will it be the next time you're in Leicester? Because for me, it will be the Sunday, the 22nd of May.
You're not going to do a Steve Wright in the
afternoon?
I'm
going to do every single one, Frank.
Every day.
Lock in. No,
she's on tour from mid-May, and if you go on the internet and look up Chloe Petts with a double T.
Yeah.
You'll
lovely.
see that. Thank you so much for doing the show today. As they used to say in ancient Rome, mucho appreciatum.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And just before
Was that a pun?
Yeah. I'm going to say yeah.
Okay.
732 has said, morning Frank and Associates, and this is in regards to the George Merriweather chat and the leeches earlier. It seems I've always misheard your customary sign-off as if the creeks don't rise, when in fact it's if the leeches don't rise. It all makes sense now.
That would make sense, of course, because if the leeches rise, there is going to be a storm.
There we go.
I'm going to get a tempest prognosticator. I think there's still time. There's still time. They'll have one in TK Maxx. Okay, so look, so thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Al, but, you know, I'm fed up of thanking you. Thank you so much for listening to us this morning. And if the creeks or leeches don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now, get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.